3. Stephanie Reddy sets the table for Game 3.
Much like the Celtics after Game 1, the Bucks feel very confident about their defense after Game 2. With the series tied at 1 apiece, the focus will certainly be on adjustments, but it may be more important to know who you are as a team.
It's important for us to be the team that we've been this whole time, and have our offensive identity intact. We're making changes going into Game 3, but I definitely think there were things that, especially offensively, that we kind of got away from that are kind of ingrained in our team DNA.
We just have to be ourselves. We don't have to reinvent the wheel or anything like that. The thing about basketball is such a fluid sport. You have to be able to adapt to whatever's called upon. And you may go into a game with a certain game plan, and the game may dictate something else. It's going to come down to the little things. Who wants it more, who's going to make those winning plays, who's going to trust each other more, who's going to play harder, longer together.
You saw Stephanie on tape. Now you see Stephanie live from Milwaukee. And let's start with a new wrinkle to this series, and that's Marcus Smart, who missed the first 2 games with a quad injury, but is listed as probable today. And Stephanie, in a series full of great individual defenders, what changes with the potential addition of the Defensive Player of the Year on the floor?
So much, Matt. I'm glad you guys have me with you, first of all, so thank you for that. Marcus Smart brings so many things to the table. Obviously, he's a terrific one-on-one defender, but it's all those intangibles that make the team better. The talking, the communicating, the taking charges, which actually you can stat that. But talking to his teammates, even when he's not been active, when he's on the bench, he pulls guys aside. He knows what the tendencies are of the other team and the individuals on that team, so he can help in that regard. It is something that he also brings called energy. Now, we think that at this point in the playoffs, everybody has that, and yes, they do, but Marcus Smart takes it to a whole nother level. So there's tons of things that they're going to need from him, and when he comes back out there, they're going to be that much better, and that's what's impressive, that they did what they did against Giannis and the Bucks without the Defensive Player of the Year.
And you see that the plan is for Marcus Smart to start today in Game 3. The Bucks have the best defensive rating in the playoffs so far. You wouldn't know it from watching Game 2. And I know their defense is designed in such a way that they will give up threes occasionally. They probably don't want to give up 20 again. What would they like to tweak today?
Really good point. It is predicated on giving up some threes, obviously not as many as they did. They rely on their defense because they know that they can contest those three-point shots. So it's not just giving up open threes, right? It's contested threes, certain areas of the floor. They don't want to give up corner threes in particular. The thing that I think they're going to be most apt to tweak is offense. I think they were happy with their defensive output. When you talk about with the Bucks what the Celtics did, they know obviously they were on fire from behind the arc, but the total number of points, they feel like they can win a game if they allow their opponent to score, under 110 in a typical NBA game in today's NBA. So they were okay with their defense. They don't think that the Celtics are going to be that hot again. And it's similar to the way the Celtics felt about Game 1. They thought that they did a good enough job on defense to win the game. If you hold your opponent to 101, you should win in today's NBA. They just couldn't get their offense going, and you saw how that resulted for them in Game 2. So I think the Bucks are looking to get Giannis different looks, closer looks, so he has to do less work once he actually gets the ball. I think you're going to see him attacking a little bit more and getting to the free throw line more too.
Well, the Bucks obviously need to hit more than 3. This was just the second time in postseason history that one team has hit 17 more threes than the other. You mentioned Giannis. He hasn't shot the ball this poorly through 2 games of a playoff series since his very first postseason back in 2015. Specifically, what would they like to do to make life easier for him on that end?
They want to get him closer. They want to get him in the paint. He likes to play downhill, obviously. When you talk about Giannis, he's like a freight train in transition. But a lot of times you get the transition buckets because of your defense. You have an open court, live ball, turnover. That enables you to get out on the break and get an easy bucket. You expect to see the Bucks pick up their intensity on the defensive end to make the offense easier. But you also should expect Giannis to do a little bit more work ahead of when he receives the ball, meaning maybe some post-ups. Even if it's like an elbow or mid-post post-up, get him closer to the rim so that all he has to do is turn and shoot.
And some better outside shooting might open things up for him as well. So the two games in a lot of ways are kind of mirror images of each other. Who's feeling better about themselves through two?
Great question, Matt. I would say they feel equally confident. Both teams think that they have what it takes to win. They have what it takes to advance. They know their defense is good. You already mentioned the Bucks have the #1 defensive rating in the playoffs, while the Celtics had the #1 defensive rating throughout the regular season. Both of them coming in with long, strong bodies that are versatile, that can switch onto different players and positions. So they both are feeling very confident on the defensive end. It's going to be the offensive side of the ball that's going to dictate how this series goes tonight, or this afternoon, is going to have a lot to say about what's going to happen moving forward. We haven't seen any major adjustments yet, because as I mentioned earlier, both teams are feeling confident in what they're doing. But I will say this, after game one, when the Celtics lost, head coach Ime Udoka for Boston, he did say, we feel like we can get a lot better going into game two. And we saw that. There wasn't anything major. They just played better. So I think you're going to see both teams dialed in. And I don't know who has the advantage, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yep, sometimes that's better than any strategic change. Play better. Do better.
Right.
Stephanie Reddy.
That's what I tell my kids all the time, just do better.
Exactly. Stephanie Reddy, already doing great for us here in the pregame. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too. All right, Stephanie Reddy with us from Milwaukee ahead of Game 3 today. Bucks also turned it over 17 times, 6 of those by Giannis in Game 2, and obviously that's something they'll want to clean up.
Yeah, you want to clean that up, Matt, but we have to let people watch the tape, because in Game 1 he had 5 turnovers, but the ball was hopping a little bit better. So you give the Celtics a lot of credit for the defense on turning Giannis over. But like we see, did Giannis do too much? Was he being over-aggressive? Was he being selfish? No, Matt. People at home, Giannis was being Giannis. You have to give the Celtics a lot of credit, because I thought those guys sold out and put their bodies and put their hands in passing lanes, and this made Giannis work a little bit more. Now, the Celtics going on the road, can you do that? Just watch, Matt. Everybody's buying in. Al Horford, Grant Williams, all these guys said, you know what? We're going to put hands in passing lane. Even Al Horford said, my foot too sometimes, Matt. And sometimes you need that. And then Giannis, I thought, got a little frustrated coming down the stretch. Why? Because he couldn't buy into his jump shot, Matt. Right. And that's why Al Horford, look, they're backing up saying, okay, we're going to the pick and roll. Until y'all start making more shots, right here, Time Lord buys in, sells his body out. You just have to love the Celtics saying, we're going to put 5 guys in front of you all game, Giannis. And look at the shot chart, Matt. Nothing blows you away.
Yeah.
Game 1, he's 9 of 25. He takes 2 more shots. He makes 2 more shots.
Yep.
It kind of weighs itself out. So you got to give the Celtics a lot of credit for being bought into all 5 guys. Now the question is this, Matt. Giannis has to look at the stat sheet and say, wait a minute, when I share the basketball, we have more opportunities to make shots. You hit around here, only 3 made threes in Game 2. There's no way you can beat a good team that's good, sound defensive if you're not sharing the basketball.
It's also hard to imagine Milwaukee has another game with only 3 made threes the rest of the way.
But Matt, we know Giannis wants to play the right way, but in that fourth quarter, there's a couple possessions when you say, that's not the Giannis we've seen in the past. He's kind of forced that.
Right.
Go back and watch Game 1 and see how the Celtics play. You share a little bit more so these guys can get open shots.
It's not a new strategy for Giannis. He's seen this before. It's not a new strategy in the NBA. Nope. They did this to LeBron. They did this to a lot of other guys who weren't great jump shooters.
And I think he'll understand you can shoot your occasional 3, the free throw line jump shot, but continue to come downhill and find that open guy and get them some more open shots.
What changes with Marcus Smart starting?
Oh, I think Stephanie hit around here, more energy. You know, having him on the floor, the defense is going to be there, more charge is going to be taken, because that's the way he plays. And Matt, you and I talk about it all the time. His three-point percentage may not be great, but somehow he makes a timely 3 in that fourth quarter to give you energy.
Well,
that's what he brings to the table.
He gives you so much else throughout the game. And what a great defensive point guard matchup with Drew Holiday and Marcus Smart sharing court space.
Yeah, both guys understand that I like to make you uncomfortable. So if you're a point guard, you know you're going against either one of those guys, you're going to be uncomfortable all game long.
It is really interesting to me that in this day and age where the 3 plays such a vital role in strategy on both ends of the floor, that Milwaukee is willing to give up the 3s they're willing to give up and still effective defensively.
Well, I think what Coach Bud says, until you show me you have 2 or 3 guys that can make consistent 3-point shots night in and night out, game in and game out, I'm going to believe in this team defense and make you shoot more 3s than live in the paint.
20 is a lot of 3s to give up, but the Bucks gave up 20 3s in the regular season 8 times.
8 times.
More than any other team in the league. All right, more coming up here. Ja Morant's monster Game 2 tied things up for Memphis, but Is the formula sustainable on the road in San Francisco tonight?